It's the show of the week.
Hello and welcome back to Show of the Week, the weekly segment where we talk musical theater and where I wear flannel. I hope you had a happy Halloween. This week we're going to talk about Avenue Q, but there's a really specific reason I want to talk about Avenue Q. Remember a couple weeks ago when we talked about Wicked? Well, Wicked and Avenue Q came out the same year and were up for Best Musical at the Tony Awards in the exact same year when I was a senior in high school, I think. And I had this competition with my friend. He was in Wicked's camp for winning, and I was in Avenue Q's camp for winning. And we all know who won that bet. And of course, since then, Avenue Q has closed and Wicked has not, but we don't need to talk about that. What I do want to talk about is about how Avenue Q felt kind of ahead of its time in content. Not only did Avenue Q open the door for carte blanche parody on Broadway, which is kind of now just the neutral zone that a lot of Broadway musicals sit in, it also, well, it predicted something. If you go and Google right now in 2015, quarter-life crisis, you'll probably turn up at least a dozen BuzzFeed articles about the new phenomenon of the 20-something feeling of uncertainty about, like, not knowing what you're gonna do after college. Nowadays, this is a studied phenomenon. People have written all sorts of papers about it, and it's something we understand. But when Avenue Q came out, well, the phrase quarter-life crisis didn't even exist by then. And as I mentioned, I was in high school at the time, so not in my quarter-life crisis yet, but man, oh man, several years later, did I hit it? And, you know, I might still be in the middle of it. But that's not the point. The point is, Avenue Q was on the bleeding edge of this concept, of this idea, and that's awesome. I think, because I'm a musical theater fan, that musicals often, and theatrical endeavors in general, are kind of very well situated to experiment and kind of dabble in exploring things that, as a society, we don't quite understand yet. And sometimes that doesn't pan out, but in the case of Avenue Q, they got it right. I, on a daily basis, hear playing in my head the song "I Wish I Could Go Back to College." You know, it is a musical that, although I really enjoyed it in high school, has continued to speak to me and engage me all throughout my early and mid-20s. Which is a lot to say about a show that has a song called "The Internet is for Porn." So, you know, puppet sex and life lessons. What are you gonna do? All in the same musical. Avenue Q is the show of the week. That's all I've got. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye! I saw Avenue Q on Broadway. I saw it with my 14-year-old younger brother and my mother. Uncomfortable doesn't even begin to describe the experience.